You tied a rope to me. You're blessing me every day. I was down with an illusion, like a sparrow with broken wings. But now I shine with your reflection on me. I'm getting back up on my feet. That you showed up was written in my palm. You are a statement, explode like a bomb. I get to push myself to victory. You make me winner. You cut me loose and set me free. You make me win in every way. You showed me how to spread my wings. Yes, I'm the winner of the day. You cut me loose and set me free. You make me win in every way. You showed me how to spread my wings. Yes, I'm the winner of the day. Yes, I'm the winner, yeah. 'Cause I'm the winner, yes. Am I awake or am I dreaming? So far gone, I won't look back. And when I move, there ain't no stopping me. You're pushing me up to the top. I saw the clouds looking angry, but then the sky reached my mind. And when I space out, I see the possibilities unfolding the way that I want. That you showed up was written in my palm. You are a statement, explode like a bomb. I get to push myself to victory. You make me winner. You cut me loose and set me free. You cut me loose. You make me win in every way. Win in every way. You show me how to spread my wings. Yes, I'm the winner of the day. You cut me loose and set me free. You make me win in every way. You show me how to spread my wings. Yes, I'm the winner of the day. Yes, I'm the winner, yeah. 'Cause I'm the winner, yes. 'Cause I'm the winner, yeah, yeah, yeah. Ooh, yes, I'm the winner, yeah.
I've been holding on, I wouldn't let you go. 'Cause every time I try, you find a loophole. I've been slamming the door and just leave you cold. When I come back, you've heated up the South Pole. You see my body rush for the escape, while my heart wants to stay. I run away, hit the road, in and almost late. But I keep turning back just like a boomerang. You're like a backseat ghost telling me to stop. No matter what you do, I keep on coming back. Just like a boomerang. Just like a boomerang. Just like a boomerang. I keep on spinning like a boomerang. You know exactly where to push or pull. And I am going mad just like you knew I would. You're reading me like an open book. You know me better than I ever thought you could. You see my body rush for the escape, while my heart wants to stay. I run away, hit the road, in and almost late. But I keep turning back just like a boomerang.
small. Watch the clock ticking off the wall. But tonight I'm letting it go. Spend my coin for sure. I'm gonna be myself, or I could be someone else. No one's stopping me now. I'm gonna skip my breaks, I'm gonna make mistakes. I just wanna feel alive. It's just what I do when I'm out, so try not to hold me down. Feel alive when I'm in this town. Look at those beautiful stars. I wanna drive a faster car. Nothing can break me, no, no, nothing can break me. Try not to hold me down. Feel alive when I'm in this town. Look at those beautiful stars. I wanna take a trip to Mars. Nothing can break me, no, no, nothing can break me. I wanna drive a faster car. Lay my troubles to rest. Blow the smoke through my cigarette. City lights looking fine, and I know this is my time now. I'm gonna be myself, or I could be someone else. No one's stopping me now. I'm gonna skip my breaks, I'm gonna make mistakes. I just wanna feel alive. It's just what I do when I'm out, so try not to hold me down. Feel alive when I'm in this town. Look at those beautiful stars. I wanna drive a faster car. Nothing can break me, no, no, nothing can break me. Try not to hold me down. Feel alive when I'm in this town. I wanna take a trip to Mars. Nothing can break me, no, no, nothing can break me. Look at the beautiful stars. I wanna drive a faster car. I'm gonna be myself, I'm gonna be someone else. I'm gonna be myself, I'm gonna be someone else. I'm gonna skip my breaks, I'm gonna make mistakes. I'm gonna skip my breaks, I'm gonna make mistakes. I'm gonna be myself, I'm gonna be someone else. I'm gonna be myself, I'm gonna be someone else. I'm gonna skip my breaks, I'm gonna make mistakes. I'm gonna skip my breaks, I'm gonna make mistakes. Try not to hold me down. Feel alive when I'm in this town. I wanna drive a faster car. Nothing can break me, no, no, nothing can break me. Try not to hold me down. Feel alive when I'm in this town. Look at the beautiful stars. I wanna take a trip to Mars. Nothing can break me, no, no, nothing can break me.
Life goes. You've been hiding in the shadows way too long. You always thought that you were weak, but babe, you're wrong. Yeah, you better step into the light. Just give it a try. Think that it's time you let that spark out. You've been hiding in the shadows way too long. And who cares if you might mess it up? You're stronger than the others think. And who cares if you might mess it up? Go ahead and shine, darling. Go ahead and shine, my dear. 'Cause who cares if you might mess it up? Just shine. Shouldn't doubt yourself, 'cause you're a work of art. You should know that you are perfect Gotta step into the light, just give it a try. Know that it's time you let that spark out. You've been hiding in the shadows way too long. And 'cause if you might mess it up, you're stronger than the others think. And 'cause if you might mess it up, go ahead and shine, darling. Go ahead and shine, my dear. 'Cause who cares if you might mess it up? Just shine, shine, darling. Go ahead and shine, my dear. 'Cause who cares if you might mess it up? Just shine. You're stronger than the others think. And who cares if you might mess it up? Shine, go ahead and shine, darling. Go ahead and shine, my dear. 'Cause who cares if you might mess it up? Just shine, shine, darling. Go ahead and shine, my dear. 'Cause who cares if you might mess it up? Just shine. What's your story? What's your sign? It's like we're twin flames in a different life. Deep connection lights a spark. It's like you know me in the depths of my heart. We're dreamers. Don't care what other people say. We live it like this could be our final day. We're dreamers. Don't care what the others say. We're doing this in our way. We come alive in the nighttime. It's something about how we dance in the moonlight. That look in your eyes, it tells me that you want me and all my loving. We come alive in the nighttime. You and I, we come alive.
Hey everyone, welcome to Straight Talk with Sally. Woo! Hope you had a bit of a dance party along with me as we started on grooving on into, well, I did it again, Straight Talk with Sally. No, it's called, no, that's my podcast. We're talking about my podcast today. This is actually Monday Mentoring. And no, it's not. Oh my goodness. I think we've changed the name of Monday Mentoring to Mentoring with Sally, and I still get it wrong months later. Oh my God. Seriously, we should just go back to Monday Mentoring, guys, because it is Monday in America, right? Yes. G'day everyone, it's Sally here. Hey Trisha, you joining us out on the live stream? The VOZ is open, come on in. Or you can just, it's better with the music out there, right? Because for some reason it's not working in the VIP room at the moment. All right, guys, this is the lowdown about what actually happens here every single Monday in America, Tuesday in Australia. It is now 8 a.m. my time. Smart people Google, you'll figure out your own time. But we come in here live every single week for a little bit of teaching. If you want to make sure you don't miss a live event, head there. You'll be able to see not just this, but our podcast days and any other training that we have on as well. Also, what we do is we teach a little something in this session each week. We then do some live Q&A. So if you've got a question, drop a Q in the chat as well. And we also have the VIPs part of my program jumping on in as well to ask questions. Some of them like to come in during the live stream. A lot of them like to come in after we go dark. So the second hour is actually directly with my client. So I do spend a full 2 hours here, but 1 hour out there streaming to you guys. All right. Yes. Thank you, Chris. Yes. Lots of word. It doesn't matter, right? Imperfect action at its best. Now, if you are brand new to the Sparkle world, make sure you put new. So, because we love to welcome new people into the Sparkle world if you've just discovered us, or if you are a sparkler, then you know what to do. Drop me some purple hearts and sparkles. You do the little sparkles, the 3 sparkles, and then the purple heart, and it actually means sparkle love. Well, it does in my world anyway. So if this is your first session with us, make sure you do let me know. We love to teach something good up front. So today's session is going to be all about, and looks like I've lost, I have. You know what I'm going to have to do? I'm going to have to get rid of this little guy here for my video editing girls, because this is me editing on the fly, appear to have deleted my standard screen. Yes, I have. That's okay. We roll with it. We just fix up this scene right here, just like that. All done. Look at that. Awesome. So as you see, I just pause. I'm just going to tell you what I'm doing right now. We're batching. Oh, we're not batching. We're recording, because part of this is actually going to go into our podcast. I'm going to let you know of all the things that go into our podcast. So this is what I do at the beginning of a podcast episode is I come in, I welcome all of you guys, but then I pause to allow my girls to chop off all of this rubbish that I'm speaking at the beginning, right? Then I'm going to deliver the content to you guys. And after that, and then, well, we'll go into more of that in a minute, but let's start with this. We've all heard the statement, content is king, right? But what does it actually mean? Well, in content marketing, it means you want to keep showing up in a strategic way so that your marketing, your creatives, all the value that you share is relevant and consistent so people don't forget about you. And also so that you can attract the ideal client, it can build your brand awareness, your reputation, and it also nurtures your current customers, and eventually it may convince them that they want to buy with you. Now, content marketing can be really difficult at times because you're constantly always trying to come up with new things such as blog posts, podcasts, just graphics and all sorts of things to go onto social media across all of the platforms. But regardless of what content you choose, it needs to represent you and what it is that you want to communicate to your viewers. Now, what we do is we do a lot of batching. And in this episode, I want to talk to you specifically about our podcast batching day. Now, if you were with us at the time of this recording, last Friday, we actually had our podcast batching day. And what we did was we put a lot of content together in one day that we're going to be able to use across multiple different platforms, including our podcast. But content is all about communicating value and educating people in a way that allows them to be able to develop the right perception of your business. So it will be everything you put out there will allow people to get to know, like, and trust you. So blog posts, for example, answering industry questions, interviewing famous people within your industry and niche, creating videos, introducing your brand, behind the scenes videos, collaborations with other influencers, which is something I really, really love to do. And then, of course, social media scheduling, all of these valuable tips, ideas, actions that you want them to take. Now, the list goes on, but the rule for all of your content is to inspire and engage your audience with the information you want them to have and eventually develop that relationship that is going to help them to make an informed decision if you are the right person for them, if it comes to the time when they need it, the thing that you do, and decide that they want your help. So it can get really overwhelming thinking, how am I supposed to put all of this content together and do it in a strategic way without feeling like I'm wasting loads and loads of times. Now, if you guys can hear some banging and dropping and doors opening and closing in the background, I just want to say that's my husband joining me to make coffee. So just, be aware that my coffee comes first. Keeps me going through this podcast episode or mentoring episode, wherever you're watching this. So what I've done is, after doing our podcast batching day, I put together a list of the things that we actually did for our podcast batching day. So here we go. And let me come across to here and realize that I've given away all the secrets and forgot to turn them off. All right, Ma, you edit this bit out, honey. You totally edit this bit out. And Joyce, you edit this bit out as well. All right, make sure that they don't just listen through and not edit. All right, so we'll go back to this scene right here. Right, this is so my girls in the edit suite can actually fix this. Kat, can you please write a note that the girls need to watch the content part of this one? They can't just top and tail it because I've made a few mistakes. And I can tell you my next scene has probably done the same thing. I forgot to turn, this is the joy of live, and when you leave things until the last minute to actually get out of bed. Honestly, guys, it's really early and I was up really late last night. So bear with me. We've got the scenes all set up. Here we go. So let's now, I'm going to go through the list of what we did through our podcast pre-show and then during the show to make sure that we had a really successful podcast batching day. So before the show actually begins, what we do is we have a scene that works. We have a scene that works. Come on. Where are my scenes? Here we go. The whole thing's off. There we go. And we're missing this ticker here. Let's try that again. I'm just going to do the flick through. Oh, my goodness. Oh, my goodness. Isn't that what Annie says? Oh, my goodness. Oh, my goodness. Oh, my goodness. Oh, thank you, honey. Water, coffee's coming. Oh, my goodness. Oh, my goodness. Oh, my goodness. Okay, here we go. So before the show, this is what we do. First off, I like to make a list of potential guests, right? So I will get together a list of people that I've either worked with or collaborated with or, people I would love to have on the show. Sometimes the list of guests will actually be people that have invited me on their podcasts, and then I'm like, hey, do you want to come on mine? So we have a list of guests that we begin with. Then what we do is we go out and we research them as well. So we will look at the type of content that they're putting out and make sure that it's a really good fit for our audience, because we don't want to be bringing people on the show that are talking about how to make candles if it doesn't relate to something that we do, right? So we want to make sure they're going to deliver valuable content to us. And then once we actually have done the research, also, we then, if I haven't done this beforehand, we do outreach. So when we reach out to them, we don't just want to go, hey, we got a podcast, come on to the podcast. We want to lead with edifying, right? So we want to tell them how awesome they are, how amazing they are, the content that we have liked, and be specific, right? When you're specific with the content, they know that you actually listen to them. Okay? Because if it's one of those random emails that just kind of jump into your inbox all the time, with no personalization, they're literally just going to, oh yeah, another one of those people looking to get into my list, right? You want to deliver value and show them that you appreciate them when you reach out to them. Now, once they say yes, we have a form that we have them to complete. Now, in that form, this helps us to automate a lot of different things. One, we send them a link to actually book their time slot. We have between 3 to 5, depending on my day, on my batching day, different time slots. And I usually allow about 2 hours between each recording, so they can pick which time slot they want. Now, because most of our audience are in America and I'm in Australia, I tend to start quite early on my podcast batching day. If it's a really great guest, or, you know, even just to get it done earlier in the day, I could potentially start my first one at about 5 o'clock in the morning. And sorry about the coffee noise, guys, on the podcast, but, you know, Sally can't go without her coffee. All right. So what we do is, what was I saying now? I'm all lost because of all the coffee noises in the background of my podcast episode. I forget. My husband's trying to tell me what was I talking about. Oh, dear. I'm so glad the girls have to listen to this episode. This is one of the worst pre-recordings I've done in a long time.
You started your first one at 5.
Oh, there we go. Thank you. My husband reminded me I started my first one at 5. So we can start as early as 5 o'clock in the morning, and then we spread them out at least 2 hours apart, because normally an episode will be about an hour, but also we have a 15-minute pre-show set up as well, which we'll get into. Now, in that form, once we know their time, we will also get their bio, because we need their bio to put into the show notes, into the advertising and everything that we're going to do. We'll get a profile photo as well to use in our marketing. And also we'll ask them to suggest a topic that they would like to talk about. Of course, if it's something that doesn't really fit, we'll reach out to them and change it. But we would, like to see what their thing is that they would like to talk about, because we're about paying it forward as well, because we then want to ask them, where would you like us to send them? Because we love to help share everybody's opportunity, their business. We're all about good karma and paying it forward. We ask them to also provide us with a little promo link so we can send our list off into their list to anything free or across to any of the social platforms that they would like to send our audience to. Then what we do is we take all of this information that we've got from them, and then we compile a list of questions. Now, usually I start with 3 specific questions that our audience would specifically like to know. So my podcast manager will put together, this saves me time too, the beautiful Mar. I just want to shout her out. She is amazing, and is probably her and Joyce both work together on this. Joyce is our graphic designer and our video editor, so both of these ladies are going to have a lot of fun with this episode. So we get 3 questions that specifically would be really, really helpful for our audience. Now, of course, when I'm interviewing on the day, depending on what's being said and how it's being shared and how it's being spoken about, I may go off on little tangents if I want to learn more. So being a really good interviewer is also important as well, to actually listen to what your people are saying. But we always start with 3 questions, main questions. Then we follow up with 3 sparkle questions. So a little bit of out of the box type questions that make them think as well. Then we, once that's done, we put together a list of instructions for the actual guest and also the run of show for me. So what is the bio? What is the intro? Where do I have to promo them? What are the sparkle questions and the normal questions? So instructions are put together for the guest. And the guest needs to know to arrive early, to have a microphone, to have good lighting. If they don't have a microphone, please plug in headphones because we don't want really bad sounds, especially because it's being used for the podcast. Then the girls get to work with the graphics. Now we've got all the information together. They start batching out all the graphics to get it ready for promotions. So you may have seen my stories on the day. There were graphics before each of the podcasts with countdown timers. We had lots and lots of other types of graphics that we can send off to the guests as well. And then finally, we schedule everything that needs to be scheduled. For example, all of the YouTube episodes actually get scheduled ahead of time so people can see the content that is coming up on the batching day. We then schedule all the emails that go out with pictures of each of the guests. So before, like 24 hours or so before the show, we send out an email to let everybody know exactly who's up on the show this month, because we only batch once a month for the podcast. Then when we go live, we send an email out when we're about to go live, so a few minutes beforehand, so that all the emails go out every 2 hours if the guests are on a 2-hour time slot. And also for those that have opted in for text message reminders, they get text message reminders as well, to let them know that there is an episode live, so they don't miss the live if they want to attend. We haven't done this yet, but this will happen next month. We actually have a bot building lady now who is on our team, the amazing Rita. She will be building a bot in Dr. Sparkle to also send out reminders for the podcast batching day as well. So that will be coming. It wasn't there this time. And to be totally honest with you, I think I forgot to flick the button for the SMS text this time around. So imperfect action at its best. You can tell that was my job to turn the SMSs on because it didn't get done. But anyway, so that's what we do before the show. So before we jump into during the show, I want to go across. So I can see the VIPs are coming on in the room. Hello, VIPs. And if anybody out there has any questions, please drop a Q in the chat box. Hey, VIPs, how are you? So what are some key takeaways from the before the show content that we just went through? Who would like to share a key takeaway of what we just went through? Feel free to unmute, and I just need to make sure that all of the sounds are hitting the right locations as well, because you know what this whole Zoom chaos thing is. Everyone's been super quiet today, and it's a very small crowd in here. What about you, Liz? You were in here nice and early. What was a key takeaway from you from the before the show setup?
Prepared before weeks ahead, what you're going to do and what you're going to talk about. That's really important.
Yeah, definitely. And it gives the guests the opportunity to make sure it stays in their calendar. We did actually have a couple of cancellations this time around, and I'll say it was probably because we didn't reach out to the guests that week early enough with content prior, because if we show them, and we've done this in the past, if we show them that we've already created graphics, we've got a run of show, we've got all the things ready, they're less likely to cancel on you because you've put in all of this work and this effort. But we did have a cancellation and had to bring in, luckily, somebody amazing filled the spot. But yeah, next time around, we need to make sure we get all the graphics and the content and everything out earlier. So they're less likely to pull out when you see that you've already put in all of that effort. Because some people who do podcasts just show up and don't really put in the sort of effort that we do. And, it's literally blocked out my entire day. That's all I do on that day. What about you, Robin? What's a key takeaway for you from the before the show stuff?
Similar to Liz, the preparation that goes in beforehand.
Yeah.
I haven't had a lot to do with podcasting. I did receive all your stuff the other day, and unfortunately was unavailable to listen in. But I could see from that there was a lot of work that had gone in prior to you actually turning up with a microphone.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a bit like, you build a foundation before you build a house. So it's the foundational stuff that's got to be in place so the house doesn't fall over.
Yeah, exactly. Like, look, it never used to be like that. It was very kind of free-spirited, like I always say, kind of do it imperfect and messy. But over the time, we've gotten these systems in place. So I'm hoping that those guys now can see and maybe take some notes down of these systems. They don't take up a lot of time, but it is a process, right? A bit of research doesn't take you that long. Reach out to the guests, get them to fill in a form, put in a couple of questions you want to ask them, send them the instructions, make some graphics, schedule. Right? Like, it's not really a big, huge thing, but it's that knowing what to do and how to do it in the right order. So hopefully that's been super helpful. And one more, what about you, Sarah? I'm not sure when you jumped in, but what was the key takeaway for you?
Well, I've been here from the beginning, but camera off. I just wanted to say that I watched all 3 of the podcasts, and it's amazing to me how important the graphics are. And having, the introduction where you've got a photo of the person that you're going to interview, so then you can already start to identify with them or recognize them when they come on. They're not a stranger. And I like the fact that, I don't have the tech to do it, but I really appreciate you being able to pull in people's comments and, just kind of make it interactive rather than just, talking at the audience. So,
Yeah.
liked it.
Thank you. Well, if anyone did miss any of the podcast episodes, they are up on YouTube, so you can go and check out the podcast episodes, but they will get edited down and put onto the podcast. I'll let you know all the different things we do on the podcast. This is just one of the few different types of things, and we are building up the podcast again now that the marvelous Mar is back as our podcast manager. We will be diving into a lot more of that. So let me just head here and let's finish the rest of the recording for this episode. All right, so we just covered pre-show, the things we do before the show. Now, it might seem like a lot, but honestly, it's a few dot points. If you just do them in that order, check the check boxes, it will make your life so much easier. And this has been, it was a messy start for us. It was a messy start for us, but then it got easier because we started to see the repeating patterns, what we could automate, and we started to try and make that process a lot more simple for us. Now, let me walk you through what actually happened on the day. Now, some of these things I'm about to share with you probably should have been done pre-show, but I am that person who does their homework the night before, and that's what happened during this live batching day, and I'm going to try and do some of these things earlier next time. So on the podcast batching day, what we had is a few things we needed to get organized. So before the show, what I have to do is set up the contact. We need to contact the guests first to make sure that they're aware, they don't turn up late. Because we've got emails scheduled to go out to remind people that we're going live, we really want to ensure that we go live at the top of the hour. Now, sometimes guests do run late and we have to go live a little later. And that's another reason why I only really schedule to YouTube. I don't schedule to Facebook because it doesn't grab the video after about 10 or 15 minutes if you're late. But we were really lucky. Every guest this time was on time. I probably should schedule on Facebook and do events, and in the future we'll probably arrange that as well, because if we can advertise on the multiple platforms. But we do reach out to them in the morning and remind them, and then also we remind them about 20-25 minutes before the show starts, because what we want them to do is we want them to get in early, and I'll get to that in a moment. Now, the other thing that I should have in the pre-show part, but it's something that I didn't do this time around, because it is the first time we have been using Ecamm the way that we use it now for the podcast batching day. And we set up all the scenes. So when we set up the scenes for Ecamm, there are a few major scenes that need to be changed before we go live. So one is that countdown timer. So on the countdown timer, we give it about sort of 4.5 to 5 minutes, not as long as Monday mentoring, because I like to have a good dance party. It's really early. It helps wake me up. But for the podcast, about 5 minutes. We don't need the guest sitting there for 15 minutes waiting, but 5 minutes is, one song or 1.5 songs. So we have the title screen with the guest in screen, and also we have, so the guest can be seen, and also the name of the topic as well. And so that is ready to go. The second scene we have is the one where you see the two guests, or the guest and myself, side by side, and it has our names underneath each of us. So that's the second scene we set up. So it's a nice plain scene for general chit chat, that we're, talking, like the introduction, introducing each other, talking to each other, and also during the Sparkle question time as well, where we can go off topic. Then the next scene we set up is the actual topic scene. So the topic scene is, it literally has the name of what we're talking about at the bottom, and I have the name of the guest in that topic scene. So as we're going through the main 3 questions, which of course I dig into depending on where the conversation flows, and then the 4th scene I have to set up, or sometimes it's 2 or 3, depending on how many links people send us, is the promo or the promo pitch scenes. So where do we find them on YouTube? Do they have any free downloadables? Where does the guest want them to go? So what's their preference when it comes to social media? So in recap, the 4 scenes is the title for the countdown, the standard generic one with both of our names and each of us in a separate window, the one with the title of the episode in it, and then the promo link scene. So if people want more information about the guest, so that's all set up in Ecamm before the show starts. But then we need to have the guest in 15 minutes early for pre-show setup. Because what can happen is maybe their microphone's not coming through right. Maybe their lighting is really bad. Okay, now most of that stuff is, most people are pretty smart and come in with decent lighting and a decent microphone. Also, it allows me to have a bit of a chat with them beforehand, make them feel comfortable and relaxed before we go live, because not all podcasts are done live. Okay. Luckily, most of my guests are influencers of some sort, and they are fine going live and they can talk well. And then the biggest thing we always make sure is our headline. So you'll see where my head sort of stops at the top of the screen. I'll make them adjust their camera so that we sit kind of, our eye line is the same when we're in each of the scenes. So I'll flick through the name screen, the title, or the title of the topic screen, and the promo screen, and just make sure that our eye lines are the same. So I'll usually tell them to, tilt your camera down, or I can move my desk up and down to match them, so that it looks, good on screen, and we don't have one person sitting down here like this, which most people tend to do. Here's a hot tip for you. Always eyes in the top third of your screen. You don't need all this white space at the top of your head. So what a lot of people tend to do, and this is just the photographer in me, is they tend to put their head in the center of the screen, and then they have all of this blank space at the top of their screen. What is the purpose of all of that blank space? So whenever you're on camera, try to frame yourself with your eyes in, and I'm just watching Sarah in the VIP room now, repositioning her camera. I love that. And it's good to try and get your eyes, because I've got my hair up high and I wanted you all to see the colour in this one, if you're not watching on the live, you can go and watch back on the replay for Mentoring with Sally. But I've got a bit of hair going on here, so sometimes my eyeline's more in the top third, but I've got this really cool like messy bun going on right now and I wanted everyone to see it. So that's what we do when we set up in the 15-minute pre-show. Then, of course, we go live. Now, the great thing about Ecamm that I really, really love is there's music playing in the countdown, but what I can do is still talk to the guest. So the guest and I can actually still chat backwards and forwards together to talk about, what's coming up, and I'm letting them know the countdown and how much longer it is until we go to show and when we're about to go live. So we hit that go live button, and the great thing also about Ecamm is it pre-records. So as I'm streaming, it's also making a recording for me. I'll just tell you one great thing I love about Ecamm, and if you want a trial to Ecamm, just write the word Ecamm in the comments and I can get you a trial for Ecamm. But the recording is actually straight from computer to my hard drive. Unlike if you're recording through Zoom, it goes through the internet and the quality of the recording is determined based upon the speed of the internet. So it can get a bit blurry and not clear. And you'll actually see that what we have is really great quality videos because I can record them at 1080p. You can go up as, into the 4K, but it just slows everything down and it's not needed. Okay, you don't need to record in 4K, but we do record at 1080p and it goes straight to our computer. So it is a great piece of software and I love it. All right, then once we finish the recording, it doesn't end there. Okay, I'm going to thank the people, but then I let them know we're going to do some snippets. So in the snippet section, and you may see some snippets popping up from Brandon, okay, because when we're about to release the episode, at the end of the episode, we write down between sort of 4 to 6 things that we discussed that we really enjoyed talking about. And I put them on Post-it notes and we do a quick 1 or so minute video where we go, oh, Sally, that was so cool when you spoke about that short path and long path. And then I will reply to them, yeah, I know it's so important because, and then sort of fill in the blanks. So what I'll do is I'll give them an example for the first 2 takes. So I'll go, wow, Megan, I love that we talked about insert the thing that we spoke about. And then I let her run off the back of that with just a follow-up to what I asked. And it's a really good way is to ask them a question or prompt them to follow up. So the 2 of you do a really short 1 to 2 minute. So we do a batch of little snippets that then at the end of that, after I've done 6, up to about 6 different topics that we covered where we just repeat backwards and forwards to each other, then the guest is sitting there, but I go back to my screen and I just do something like, well, if you want to, it was such a great episode, and if you want to see the full episode, then head on over to YouTube or go and listen to where all the good podcasts are streamed from, and you can hear the full episode. So we're throwing these little snippets out the week that the podcast drops, so people can go and watch the video version, or they can go and listen to wherever they listen to the podcast. So that literally takes us about sort of 10 minutes at the end of the episode. Then I thank the guest and send them on their way. Once they've left the room, I still am not done. Once they've left the room, I then start recording again and I just do an intro. So the intro is literally about what I liked about the episode, and you can't do an intro before you know what you spoke about. And it's a really quick intro that will go something along the lines of, well, in today's episode, I actually got to speak with Ram, and Ram loves to talk about insert some things and something that I really liked about him. And now, without further ado, let's go dig into today's episode. So I do a couple of versions of that so that the editor, Mar and Joyce, can choose which one they like the best. They can also maybe use it for a promo slide that they can put on during the week that the actual podcast itself drops. So that's what happens on live batching day. And then finally, all of that pre-recorded content, it's 3 videos. 1 is the live recording, 2 is the snippet recording, and 3 is the intro recording. I rename them, I throw them onto Google Drive, and my job is done. That's it. So that's what we do on batching day. And then, of course, it goes off to get edited, get the show notes written, get scheduled, all the graphics so that everything goes out the week that the podcast actually drops. But what we do is with our podcast, it isn't just interviews, all right? So there's a lot of batching that goes into these episodes. This is actually one of them. The one you're listening to right now or watching, depends on where you are, is our Monday mentoring. Oh my goodness, Sally. It is not Monday mentoring. It's mentoring with Sally. We are going back to Monday mentoring. Now, I lost the vote when the name changed, but I swear it has to go back because I just need to be able to say it again. We do this episode. Now, you can see in this episode, this whole section at the beginning here is an episode, okay? I'm fumbled through when I made a few mistakes and the girls are going to chop it up and it's a longer episode. So every week we have a longer episode, which is me teaching something of value that's going to help you, our audience. The next one is an interview. So every week there is an interview and there again a longer episode. And then the third type of episode we put out are quick tips. Now, these are where we pull snippets out of teaching, or sometimes somebody might ask a really great question inside of the Mentoring with Sally recording, and we'll pull that out as a quick tip as well. So there's lots of other lives that we do, even when I'm teaching. So my team will go through and find some quick tips. Now, in our last team meeting, I will share with you, we've actually been talking more about our quick tip episodes, and I would love to see them coming out 5 days a week and 2 long episodes a week so that we're actually have a new episode every week. But that's a lot of work for our girls going through videos trying to find quick tips. And also, our business isn't just Sally. Okay, I have a team of coaches. When people hire the Sparkle Class Academy and join us in the Freedom Funnel Academy, they don't just get me, they actually get a team, an entire team that supports them. So we were discussing that we might actually do some live streams to pre-record again our quick tip episodes and say bring in our messaging and copywriting guru, bring in our ads guru, bring in our bot lady, bring in the tech people, like whoever wants to talk on the podcast with me from the team. And then of course I'll do some myself, but like go live and have a list of things and only talk on them for 5 to 10 minutes and no longer, which could be really hard for Megan and myself to actually talk for less than 5 minutes. But we'll try. We'll definitely try. So that's actually going to make it easier. So that's also a plan that we have for the future because we're always continuously improving. Or if you are in the world of education, pedagogy, just saying, it's one of the smart words that I have. I don't have many smart words. No, I definitely don't have many smart words. Awesome. All right, what I'm going to do now, oops, I need to finish off. I didn't leave a good pause there for you girls. I'm really sorry. Another thing as well is when you finish talking on your content, you should pause and in your brain count to like 3 seconds. So it's easier for your editing team to actually cut the episode. So include this part in the episode, and I'm about to pause now for 3 seconds so that the girls can cut to the end. There we go. All right, I'm going to come back to the VIP room. And here's some key takeaways. If anyone has any questions, looks like a few people want the trial for Ecamm. We'll get that link through to you. If my team can please go and find anyone who wrote that they want the trial for Ecamm. We'll shoot you through the link. When Sarah was fixing, she just sat up straight. I love it. I love it. Yes, mentoring with Sally. Thank you very much, Chris. All right, VIPs. What was a key takeaway from the second half of our the actual day itself? Come on. I know you're all off camera, but don't be shy. I'm going to bring in Sarah. Sarah.
I was just amazed at how much is involved in putting this all together. And by being organized and having it all planned out ahead of time, you can use your content for multiple purposes. But like you just mentioned, pausing at appropriate places makes the video editing much easier. And I'm guilty of that myself. I should pause, but I keep talking. And then when I try and go and edit it, it's challenging. So it's just interesting to see, all the things that go on behind the scenes.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Really interesting. We've also got Eva joining us today. Eva, what was a key takeaway for you?
My key takeaway is that I need to start a podcast because there's so many different ways to be able to utilize this. And the things that Sarah was pointing out, having so many different venues, platforms that we can use that information for, that just saves so much time.
Yes. I mean, everyone should go and watch the podcast episode that Megan and I did together. Like, Megan likes to do her podcast not streaming, but I'm known for streaming, and so I'm keeping to my brand, right? I'm messy and all, mistakes and all. But Megan, during her podcast, she's like, I like to do it in the room all by myself with the camera on. So each of you are different. I just want to also point out, podcasting is also great for collaborations and finding people to collaborate with and do joint ventures with. And that's the main reason in the beginning. First, it was just to get my message out there, but then I'm like, well, why don't I just start reaching out to people that I admire and see if they'll come onto my podcast? Then they invite you on their podcast. And then you can start collaborating and having them speak at your events. And it is amazing the types of collaborations that we get from bringing guests on. And, love on your guests as well, because one, they've shown up and given valuable content to your audience, and you're not paying them to do that. So sure, you're sending your people to their opt-ins or to their social platforms, but I'm a huge believer in really loving on what it is they're gifting of their time. And if I reach out to you to ask, if I personally reach out to you to ask, I really want you, because most of the time it's my team who are doing the reaching out. To me, I find that, like, if I can make the first connection and then my team take over, that works better than if my team just go in cold. So if it comes directly from myself, because, I'm known in the industry, sometimes I do cold reach outs when we need to, or I don't have the time. But most of the time I do like to do the first reach out and then love on them as much as you can, edify, because when you appreciate them, that's all that good karma, and it will come back to you, whether it's with that person or somebody else. It's always about, sharing and helping other people to inspire as well is a huge belief I have. Megan, who was a guest.
Can I? Oh,
yes.
Perfect. Can I just say something? So one thing I love to do with my podcast guests is I like to make it like an experience. So because they come and they record at my house, a lot of them. So I have a gift for them. I give them a custom candle. On the back of the candle, it says your voice is a guiding light. The candle is made from a local supplier here in Rhode Island. So a lot of people also know her. And I give them a handwritten card, and nobody does handwritten cards anymore. And so when Sally would say love on them, like that's something I believe in so hard, because they will always come back if you give them free stuff. And if you made them feel like their voice is being heard. And that's what I've noticed. And so all of the people I had on my podcast in the beginning, when I was just like figuring it out, are all coming back to do a more upgraded version. And if you don't create that experience and it's not a memorable thing for them, they might not come back.
I love that.
I also think too, something that's really important to know is that like every podcast is so different. And so don't just think that, you know, Sally does her podcast one way. And I mean, I love the whole batching concept. My voice, like, I don't know if I'd be able to hold up, but it's just such a wonderful concept. And one thing I would say, Sally, is, did you talk about sending flowers to people?
Oh, darling, have you not received your flowers yet?
I got my orchid. Yeah,
Yay! I wasn't sure, and I didn't want to kind of drop the bomb in here because you were in here, and I'm like, I like it to be a surprise, but I'm glad you got it. Yay!
Yes, I got it. It's at my mom's house because that's where I opened it, and I just was there getting my dog, and I was like, I should grab it, but it totally slipped my mind. But one thing I would talk about too is the back end of Ecamm for the guests, because that was very interesting for me. I couldn't see any comments. I couldn't see what was happening. And so I think, Sally, kind of adding that into the training would be really helpful.
I actually reached out. Yeah, I reached out to Ecamm, and I'm going to get Doc Rock on for an interview, because I truly believe that there is a way for you guys to see the comments, because it was just something that I hadn't done. You see, previously, our podcast, I used to bring them into Zoom, and actually, like you guys are now sitting on my screen in Zoom, that's how I used to interview, because I used to have the guest come into Zoom and also have all of you in the room with the guest. And this time around, we decided on quality. So we wanted quality recordings. That's why we brought them into Ecamm. So it was my very first experience in the interview space. So the very first episode that we did with Brandon in the morning, he didn't even see me, and he didn't tell me until after the episode, even though we had pre-show, that he couldn't see me. And I hadn't flicked the camera on in the interview room. Now, I know there is a way for you guys to also see comments and to see the scene, but I haven't figured that out yet. So the next round of interviews are going to be so much more better for them. And I seriously, Tal, we should get Doc Rock on, because he will give me a walkthrough and a guided tour on how to actually make it a better experience for my guests, being that it was the very first time that I'd done the interview mode. But yes, it was a little bit not as fun for the guests.
Yeah, it wasn't bad. I had no idea kind of where we were going, because I just couldn't see, which is fine for me because I was taking us off the road anyway. But I honestly and truly, I think it was I love the training you just did here, because podcasts, I think, are so powerful. And I know so many people who utilize, you know, their recordings of their podcasts for so many other things, just like you do. And I'm here for, you know, you making your podcast come alive again. So thank you for having me on it.
You're welcome. Now, there is somebody sitting in the waiting room, and I would say the reason why Kat hasn't let you in is because we don't recognize your name. If you can send them a message, Kat, in the chat to the waiting room, and let them know to come back in with their actual name, because if they're not on our list, you also don't get in. If you could do that, Kat, so that whoever's sitting in the waiting room, they might be using their partner's computer or something like that. Jenny's there looking all like warm. Oh, it's Trisha. Okay, it's Trisha. You can let her in. Charlie is Trisha.
Hello.
Hey, Jen, what was the takeaway for you?
Well, I'm interested in doing a podcast, but the more I hear about podcasting, the more I think, oh my God, there's so much I've got to do.
All right, let me simplify it for you. And this is what you can do for a podcast. invite somebody into Zoom, hit record,
Mm-hmm.
have a conversation. Done. That's it. It doesn't need to be. So that's how I started, and just invite somebody in you like to talk to, have a conversation. That's it.
I was thinking of doing the version where I just talk about stuff.
Well, do that too. That's exactly what Megan does. She doesn't go live stream. She literally just sits down on a Sunday and she just hits record and starts talking.
Yeah, I have a new segment coming out called Shit I Wish I Knew Sooner. And it's just me talking about things I wish I knew sooner. And honestly, most of my podcasts are just me. And then like once every other week or once a month, I have a guest on. So mainly all of my episodes are just me.
Yeah. Yeah. And I was the same. When I started, I literally just hit record and started talking. And it was before I had a podcast manager, and I wanted to start a podcast. I literally probably should have launched it better and tried harder, but I just wanted to give it a go. I was scheduling and trying Libsyn all by myself. I got it approved onto all the platforms by myself. I did a bit of YouTubing to figure out how to do that. I did join SPI Pro because Pat Flynn is well known for podcasting, but I just Googled a couple of videos and then I just got it approved. The first episode you've got to have ready and uploaded, and then you can send it off to get approved on all of the channels. But I use Libsyn. That's the place that houses my podcast. And
Yeah, see, I don't know any of those things. But I was thinking that maybe I should just start doing YouTube videos and then go from there to turning it into a podcast.
Well, that's it. If you do a video,
Like I'm thinking,
if you do a video, whether or not you want to do it live or just sit there and just start talking, when you're all up in your head, stuff just rolls around over and over again and nothing comes out.
Keeping my head warm.
Yeah.
Where all the knowledge is.
But just start talking and all of a sudden gold falls out of your mouth and you're like, where did that come from? Oh, that's really good. And then you'll watch it back and it's like self-therapy. It's like, Sally, you should totally listen to yourself right now. You're talking some good stuff. You should actually action what you're taking too. Yeah. So don't overcomplicate it. I think that's procrastination and trying to get things perfect. Just do it messy.
Can I also just say one more thing? I do all of my podcast stuff by myself, and it probably takes 1 hour a week. So I make 10 reels from every podcast I do. I do literally everything within 1 hour a week. So that's like with the recording and with the editing. And so it doesn't have to be this whole big thing. If you can't have a manager, like you can 100% do it all by yourself, and it doesn't have to be complicated. You just have to find a way that works for you, and like Sally said, don't overcomplicate it. And I use something called Anchor. You can actually record right on the app.
Oh, yes, I've heard of Anchor.
And you can just literally publish it right from there. So, yeah, don't just know there's like 100 different ways to get to the same end result, and whatever works for you in the time that you have. And it just gets easier as you go. So just know you can't do it by yourself, and it doesn't have to be that hard. But I just wanted to say I do it by myself in about 1 hour a week. My entire episode is ready to go.
Awesome.
There you go. And you are part of the Freedom Funnel Academy, so you can always jump in and get any help with the tech. That's why we're here.
Oh.
Right? Sorry. And especially like Megan is on her Wednesday, our Thursday. That's Megan's session. So if you want to know more about the software that Megan's using to do the podcast, come into Megan's session because she's guaranteed to be there. Not that she's still in the Voz throughout the week in the mornings because she's on the wrong side of the United States. I'm just saying you need to move to the other side so I get more hours from you. But yeah, if you do come in on Thursdays, Megan's going to be able to help you. Not just with copywriting, but anything that's in Megan's wheelhouse as well. She can always help you guys with. What about you? Who have we missed that's got their cameras on? Robin, what's a key takeaway for you? Oh, I can't hear you. Just while we're waiting for you to find the mute button, it's called Seasons of You is Megan's podcast. But if you go back and watch her episode, Chris, on YouTube, there's links to all her goodness as well from Friday. Robin, what's a key takeaway for you?
this whole conversation has been just so interesting. Podcasting has been in my too hard basket because I figured there was probably something like all this stuff that needed to be done, and I didn't know what it was. And I didn't have the energy I haven't had the energy or the drive to actually work it out because I've had so many other things to deal with. But I guess what you've done this morning is actually break it down to show us that it's not that hard. And Megan has just shared how she does it, which makes it very doable. So it's something I've wanted to do, and I've known the scope and the potential that comes with repurposing content.
Yeah.
But I just haven't had the capacity to deal with that. So that's been my, it's you've taken away the scary.
Oh, that's good.
I guess would be my biggest takeaway.
Yeah, that's it.
You've removed that scary, which was how I saw it.
Yeah, I mean, just hit the record button and start talking. You will be so surprised at what will fall out of your mouth when you just start talking. And you'll find little snippets in there to turn into episodes, reels, all sorts of things. And I mean, I learned that's what I did when I started going live on Periscope. You can go back through some of my, it's not the original, but go back through my Facebook page, okay? Or YouTube has some that go way back to my Jamberry days. Go back through my business page to the early videos, and I was different, a little bit more uptight. Sometimes I plan, sometimes I don't. Right? This morning, literally what you saw on screen with those dot points happened 10 minutes before I went live. That's why all the scenes weren't right and all the words were still on the screen. I forgot to turn the little eyeballs off. I just wrote a couple of notes. I just thought back through my day because I was like, what am I going to talk about today? And I'm like, let me share the podcast as I was walking out to my office 20 minutes before we started. And then I just put a few dot points up on the screen and it prompted me to talk about content and podcasting. And I mean, that's just our interview schedule. There are lots of other, like this session we're doing today is a podcast episode and multiple probably little snippets out of this as well. So don't overcomplicate it. Do it messy. Better be done than not done. And then you've got so much content. If you're not showing up every day some way, it doesn't mean you have to be there every day either. But your content should be. All right, guys, we're heading to the top of the hour. We're about to go dark and help the VIPs with their goals. For those that are watching on the replay, don't forget to go and set your goals. We're going to be doing that in the room for you very soon. But thank you all for joining me today on Mentoring with Sally. Yay, I got it right. We're here every single week. If you want to make sure that you don't miss an episode, then make sure you head to sparkleclassacademy.com/calendar. Hit the little subscribe button so that you can not miss any episodes. If you want to check out more episodes by me, there'll be some little thingies popping up right here. So on YouTube, you can click on them, go and watch a little bit of something else. And for everyone, as always, thank you so much for joining. Never let anyone dull your sparkle. There we go. All right. Excellent. Bye, guys. Never let anyone dull your sparkle, and I'll see you next week.